What would you do if you came home early and found your nanny doing something with your children that you explicitly forbade, but it turned out to be exactly what they needed? This is the story of Julian Cross, a billionaire hedge fund manager who caught his nanny in an act he thought was betrayal, only to discover she'd been saving his triplets from the damage he was causing without even realizing it. Watch now to see what happened next, and discover the shocking twist that changed everything for Julian and his family. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more unbelievable true stories. It's a Tuesday afternoon in October 2022, and Julian Cross leaves his Manhattan office at 2 p.m., something he hasn't done in the 3 years since his wife died during childbirth. His meeting in London was canceled last minute, and he's heading to his Tribeca penthouse expecting an empty apartment. The nanny should have his 4-year-old triplets at their scheduled music lessons. But as Julian enters through the private elevator, he hears something that makes him freeze. Laughter. Not polite, controlled giggles, but wild, uninhibited laughter from 3 children who sound completely unrestrained. He follows the sound to the living room and stops dead in the doorway. The space has been transformed. His expensive Italian furniture is pushed against the walls. Blankets and sheets are draped over chairs, creating an elaborate fort. His children, Sophia, Oliver, and Emma, are covered in washable paint, creating chaotic art on large sheets of paper spread across his premium hardwood floors. And in the middle of this beautiful disaster sits Rebecca Torres, his nanny of 8 months, also covered in paint, laughing as Oliver accidentally steps in a paint tray and leaves colorful footprints everywhere. Julian's first reaction is anger. The scene represents everything he's explicitly told Rebecca not to do. The children's schedule is rigid by design. Music lessons Tuesdays and Thursdays, chess on Wednesdays, Mandarin tutoring daily, educational enrichment activities only. No mess. No unstructured play. No deviation from the program he's carefully designed to ensure his children become exceptional, accomplished adults who can handle the pressure of inherited wealth. Julian's own childhood was similar, structured, achievement-focused, emotionally distant, and he turned out fine. Built a $9 billion fortune by 45. His children will have the same advantages, the same discipline. Except his children, he realizes as he watches this scene, look happier than he's ever seen them. Rebecca notices him and her smile vanishes. Mr. Cross, I can explain, but Julian isn't listening. He's watching Sophia, his quietest child, the one who never smiles in family photos, absolutely beaming as she dips her hands in yellow paint and creates a sun on her paper. He's watching Oliver, who has panic attacks before music lessons, completely relaxed and making up songs as he paints. He's watching Emma, who cries every morning when he leaves for work, so absorbed in creating that she hasn't even noticed her father's presence. The children look like children, not like miniature adults being groomed for corporate boardrooms before they're 5 years old. And Julian realizes with uncomfortable clarity that he hasn't seen them look this carefree, this genuinely happy, since before their mother died. Rebecca stands up, trying to shield the children from what she expects will be Julian's fury. The music teacher canceled last minute. I know you don't approve of unstructured time, but they've been so stressed lately, Mr. Cross. Oliver had another panic attack yesterday before chess. Emma barely eats because she's anxious about disappointing you. Sophia stopped talking at school because she's terrified of making mistakes. They're 4 years old. They needed this. Her voice shakes, but she doesn't back down. You can fire me, but they needed one afternoon to just be kids. Julian stares at her, processing information that contradicts everything he thought he knew about his children. Oliver has panic attacks. Emma's not eating. Sophia stopped talking at school. Rebecca's expression shifts from defensive to sad. You didn't know? The teachers have been calling. I've been leaving notes in the daily log. Have you read them? The truth hits Julian like ice water. He hasn't read the daily logs in months. He gets summarized reports from his assistant about whether the children met their developmental milestones and educational targets. But he hasn't looked at the actual detailed notes about their emotional states, their struggles, their small daily victories and defeats. He's been managing them like portfolio companies, focused on performance metrics while completely missing the human beings behind the numbers. His children are suffering, and he's been too busy optimizing their schedules to notice they're falling apart. Julian does something completely out of character. He takes off his $15,000 suit jacket, sets down his briefcase, and sits on the paint-covered floor. "What are we making?" Three small faces turn to him with identical expressions of shock. Sophia speaks first, her voice tentative. "Daddy, you'll get messy." Julian looks at his daughter, really looks at her, and sees anxiety in a 4-year-old's eyes that shouldn't exist. "That's okay. Show me what you're painting." For the next hour, Julian Cross, one of the most powerful financiers in New York, sits on his floor getting covered in washable paint while his children cautiously, then enthusiastically, teach him about their art. They don't talk about music theory or Mandarin vocabulary. They talk about how yellow and blue make green, about dinosaurs and princesses, about nothing and everything that matters when you're 4 years old. That evening, after the children are in bed and the living room has been cleaned, Julian sits with Rebecca at the kitchen table. "Tell me everything. Not the performance metrics, the real stuff. What's actually happening with them?" Rebecca pulls out her detailed daily logs, months of observations Julian never read. Oliver's panic attacks started after Julian increased his practice schedule to 2 hours daily. Emma's anxiety manifests as perfectionism. She won't eat lunch if she makes any mistakes during morning lessons because she doesn't deserve rewards. Sophia's selective mutism at school began when another child laughed at her accent while practicing Mandarin phrases. These are children living under pressure that would break adults, and Julian created every bit of it thinking he was preparing them for success. Julian makes changes immediately. The rigid schedule is gone, replaced with age-appropriate activities mixed with unstructured playtime. Music and chess become optional. Both are discontinued when the children show relief rather than disappointment. Mandarin tutoring is reduced to fun, game-based sessions 3 times weekly instead of daily drills. Rebecca is given authority to adjust schedules based on the children's emotional needs rather than following a rigid program. And most significantly, Julian starts leaving work at 5 p.m. 3 days a week to actually be present with his children, not to quiz them on their progress, but to play, to listen, to simply exist together. The transformation takes months, not days. Oliver's panic attacks gradually decrease as pressure is removed. Emma starts eating normally again and laughing at her own mistakes instead of crying about them. Sophia begins talking at school, slowly at first, then with increasing confidence. They're not becoming prodigies on an accelerated timeline, but they're becoming healthy, happy children. Julian watches this unfold with a mixture of relief and grief for the time he wasted trying to optimize what should have been simple presence. In a candid interview with a parenting publication a year later, Julian reflects on that afternoon. "I thought I was doing everything right. My children had every advantage, every opportunity, the best education money could buy. But I was so focused on preparing them for a competitive future that I was stealing their present." Rebecca showed me that sometimes the most important thing we can give children isn't another lesson or achievement. It's permission to just be kids. That afternoon of paint and chaos was more valuable than 1,000 music lessons they dreaded. He's asked about the moment he realized his approach was wrong. His answer is raw. "When I saw my daughter smile for the first time in months while covered in paint, doing something I'd specifically forbidden, I understood I'd been measuring the wrong things. I'd been tracking their accomplishments while missing their suffering. That's not parenting, that's management. And you can't manage childhood into submission without breaking something essential in the process." So what's the lesson here? It's not just about one billionaire who pushed too hard or one nanny who broke the rules to protect her charges. It's about how easily ambition for our children can become cruelty disguised as preparation, how success without joy is just another form of failure, and how sometimes the greatest gift we can give the next generation isn't more opportunities. It's the freedom to be young while they still can. Julian's triplets didn't need another tutor or lesson. They needed paint, laughter, and an adult willing to risk her job to give them a childhood. If this story made you think about the pressure we put on children in the name of success, hit that like button and share your thoughts. Have you seen kids who needed play more than productivity? Subscribe for more stories that challenge how we define good parenting and success.